Hello, and once more, welcome to my cellar. Some interesting things to talk about and respond to tonight. So, for that, I'll say that Gary Kahn was, from everything I saw, a big success. I had 4 games, all sold out, and we had much fun was had by all. Even some people were even kind enough to go on social media and tell people about all the fun they had in the Wheel of Blame. Tim, given your experience as a DM and a player, tell us about a few legendary traps you recall. I have a good trap for the players and would like to hear a story. I love a good trap for the players and would love to hear a story. Hope you're keeping well. Well, legendary traps, I don't honestly I don't honestly know that I could say, what's a legend. I do know that I did a really nasty one in the Snake Riders to the Arredondo. You have to crawl in the mouth of this large serpent to get into the temple, and as you crawl down and get inside, you are in a big pink tunnel with undulating walls, and under the right circumstances, that becomes the throat of the snake. That would be pretty nasty. It's one of the nastiest ones I came up with. If you were given the power to choose a monster to be turned into a Statue of Liberty-sized monument, which monster would you pick? Something stunningly beautiful. Something stunning. All right. Right now, first off, monster. If I'm assuming we're using the term monster is everything that is possibly opposed to the player characters. So let's go with something really beautiful and bound to attract attention and create awe and mystery. Can't really go into detail here without getting bounced on all over by people calling me a sexist. If it was a monster, I'd want a mind flayer. Boulet wouldn't. A boulet the size of the Statue of Liberty would be too immense because it can't stand on its hind legs. So I'm assuming we'd have to go something that can stand on its hind legs. Anyway, the point about D&D skills translating to real life, as you discussed it, is actually kind of a thing in LARP. My friends and I go camping, well, used to pre-COVID, hopefully again soon, and beat each other up with full contact safe weaponry. I've even learned how to pick locks for it. The amount of us LARPers, in my group anyway, who also play D&D is damn near 100%. And we all have a better appreciation for the D&D rules of combat because we've experienced them firsthand. Okay. I gotta admit, a certain degree of puzzlement here. The LARPers that go out and beat themselves up with foam-covered weapons, and SCA guys and girls who go out and, or women, go out and beat themselves silly with padded weapons. I've never quite understood the appeal of going out and beating yourself silly. On the other hand, I used to play, well, before it was called paintball, it was generically called paintball. It was called the survival game. And getting it hit at close range with one of those old paintballs would hurt like hell and even break skin through 3 layers of fabric. So, okay, yeah, I got a little sickness. I had a little sickness going there. but I quickly went from being a player to being an employee and a judge, and no longer had occasion to get shot very often. So I don't. Okay, I didn't like getting shot. All right, the adrenaline was fun, running through the woods and firefights and stuff, but getting hit could be damn painful, and I wasn't into the pain. And as for picking locks, oh, okay. You might be able to pick a simple front door or back door lock or whatever, but okay. We better not incriminate anybody. All right, how does combat work when using an ethereal state? The Eldritch Wizardry supplement has listed as a power for artifacts. I've always treated the ethereal state as being non-corporeal, but still coherent, and therefore immune to being hit and can't do anything to hit. Ethereal is great for traveling between the planes, and if it's got something you can quick turn ethereal when you get jumped on by something bad, that's cool. But just being able to do that's enough. I don't like the idea of being in an ethereal state and then killing you with an ethereal weapon. I always, you're in the ether, you're not on this plane, you're not on that plane, you're between planes. That's the way I've always dealt with it. Out between the planets, however you want to look at it. You're there, but you're not there. You're out of phase. And so therefore you can't hit or be hit. That's the way it goes in my world. As far as artifacts being able to grant you etherealness, yeah, wow, what an escape mechanism, huh? What area of RPG controversy stirs you up the most? Dice rules, character classes, alignment, triggering, something else? What's the best way to deal with a controversy when it threatens to divide a player group? All right, the thing that I think is the stupidest is the absolute way too many character classes. You don't need three kinds of crusaders. Crusader is a crusader is a crusader. You modify what that crusader is and what the crusader went on or is going on by the campaign. It's not, my opinion. Way, way, way too many character classes. Race is not a class. Race is not a class. That's elves and dwarves being classes. That was bullshit. Still is. And now today, and all the woke that's going on probably wouldn't fly anyway. Best way to deal with a controversy when it threatens to divide a group is you call a meeting in a neutral spot, not where you normally play, or not in a place if you rotate, but a pizza joint, a restaurant. I know it's COVID right now, but you see where I'm going with this. Nobody's on home ground, and you're not there to play. You're there to discuss what's bothering you. Now, given that nobody's on home ground, nobody's going to feel inordinately cocky or powerful in this argument. You're sitting down to discuss it away from the game table, where in theory you're all calm and rational about it, and you try to come up with a house rule, some way that this, whatever this issue is that's dividing you, something that that all sides of the controversy can live with. And if you can't, then can you just eliminate this thing, this mechanic or whatever? And if you can't reach a compromise there, then you're just going to have to put it to the group. All right, here it is. You want to keep playing as we've been playing before with, amongst us or not? I guess you'll have to choose, because this is the way and you then you state how you feel it ought to be played. If there's no consensus among the group, then you as DM obviously win the argument. It is your world after all. Um, if you're looking to put something in that just infuriates everybody, well, you should look at whether or not that was a good idea. Or were you just exerting your authority? Neutral ground is real good. Jolly always has the Knights of the Dinner Table meeting at a pizza joint. Somebody works there, but it's still neutral ground because it's not anybody's kitchen table. And it's where they go to make these types of discussions. So you might find a neutral ground that you go to more than once. Thanks for the heroic effort, Tim. Thanks for pulling double duty. That must be referring to the fact that, boy, I had a bad case of the yawnies last time. I was dying. I had just come off a very strenuous 4-hour game. I say strenuous in that when I'm playing against 7 people and we're playing in the format that we're playing, I got to be agile. I got to have a dex of 18 and a constitution of at least 17 just to make it through. But anyway, I hope I wasn't yawning too much. Talking about yawning, it's going to make me yawn now. Always does. Now I'm going to take time out to do something I don't normally do. I think I talked about these last week. If I didn't, stack it. Look it up on the internet. Stack it. It's big enough to hold 2 cans of beer or soda pop, a big can of energy drink like I have here, or a 17-ounce bottle of the flavored waters. And it's a small business. It's a great product. Check it out. Stack it. One word. Splitting up the party. Is this best avoided, or can increase fun and creativity in a game section? What are some of your insights into dealing with it? Well, it's always been dogma almost, that you don't split up the party. There's a number of practical reasons for this. For instance, real life, generals didn't divide their armies unless they had a brilliant stroke going here and would catch the other guy offhand. You never divided your army. And more often than not, when they did, they got defeated in piecemeal, in detail. That's what can happen with a party. If you're in a very hostile environment and you divvy up, then if it's a group of 6, then 3 and 3, we'll say or worse, it would be 4 and 2. Those 2 or those 3 are much more susceptible than they would have been as 6. The party can be defeated in detail. Not a good idea. Everybody from Sun Tzu on that's written about tactics advises against it, except in very specific, precise circumstances. Robert E. Lee did it a couple times and pulled it off, mainly because he was facing inept Union generals. As a DM, I hate it. Number 1, I have to physically distance the players. Obviously, if this party went left and that party went right, then they can't, either of them, hear what the other one's finding, doing, discovering, whatever, which means somebody goes out and stands in the hall for a while, or in the next room, or whatever. And that there's a funny side effect. When that happens, and it doesn't have, the side effect doesn't occur every time, but when that happens, that you can see a certain distrust. You really? Is that all you found? Are you sure you didn't? It can happen. It can happen. Hopefully not often. Hopefully not in your group. But now you have two groups of the party playing, perceived to be playing at odds with each other, against each other, or I gotta. It's tough to split the party up like that. Now there is a super splitting way to do it. I used to do this when I'd be doing a pickup, make it up as we go type game, which I've done a few times at cons. And that's where I have a very large group, 11 or 12 players. So we're playing in a giant city or something that is a fitting locale for a large group. And then, okay, what are you doing? What are you doing? What are you doing? Where are you going? And so they announce different parts of the city. They're going to search for clues and and whatever. And by the time we get around to this part of the table, I can go, okay, you found this, you didn't find that. That's a different dynamic is when you're splitting up in a city looking for something. But in a dungeon, I think it's always a bad idea to split up if you do not absolutely know what it is you're facing. If there's any element of doubt in there, think about it twice. And again, it's tough on the DM because now you have to physically separate the players. And from a DM paranoia state, I don't want half the party out there scheming and plotting on what they're going to do next and me not in on it. That's the best thing, going for a DM is they listen to everybody, positing this action or that reaction or whatever. Anyway, that's what I don't think it's ever a good idea. Well, I can't say that. It's seldom a good idea to split the party if you don't know what you're facing. Now, if you've been around, you explored that, and okay, you guys go this way, and you're on known territory and got a good idea of what you're facing, then it's tactics. But in exploration, no. Um, okay, new topic. Monster polymorphism, not the spell, but the biology. The occurrence of more than one form in the same population of a species. At the start of 65, you said you use bugbears the most, but you apply a polymorphic approach to keep the encounters novel. Well, I do that because there are how many strains of common felinus, whatever, felinus, whatever. How many different strains of them are there? They're all felinus. Why can't you apply that to other creatures? I like bugbears because I can make them big, make them little, make them dumb. I've done owl bears. I once gave a party an encounter with 40 owl bears as tall as your knees who had very ill-tempered behavior. Um, there's almost nothing that you can't fool around with. In a wheel game once, somebody gave me a pickle and a red dragon on the card, and I gave him the red dragon. Of course, it only had an 8-foot wingspan and was easily cowed, so well, a bummer. And so I've made miniature dragons, and I've made oversized tigers, and my personal ethic in creating oppositions, I don't need a bunch of different uh, exotic monsters when I can make smart, oversized, smart saber-toothed tigers. Who needs bugbears when you got smart saber-toothed tigers that communicate telepathically, sort of, in a very primitive mood, a very primitive method, a very basic level. Man, that scared the hell out of me. Okay, let's see. Oh, we're done with that one. Oh yeah. Okay, now going on with this one. Okay, Dragon Stew. It'd be a hoot to use a miniature dragon in a classic Hobbit-style campaign, especially if combined with the effectiveness of the dreaded white bunny from Monty Python and the Holy Grail. Um, so yeah, oh yeah, terrible thieves. Um, I fooled around with this for most of my gaming career. I've never gone real far afield and looked up, a new monster because I'm bored with all the old ones. When I can screw around with real life stuff and make it monstrous. But again, that's just me. Um, there is, in fact, a place in Kentucky where anyone can pick up a guitar and play. I couldn't believe it at first, but it's true. There's a natural spring in a place called Capitol Hill near the teeny tiny town called Fountain Run. It's in Monroe County, northwest of Bug Tussle. Yeah, I know there really is one of those. If you go skinny, now this is the part that I'm starting to have. I think this was prepared for April Fools. If you go skinny dipping in the pool beneath the waterfall and drink some of it, then within a couple of hours you can be picking and grinning with the expertise of the mountain folk. Or else the thing's full of booze and you just drunker than a skunk and think you did. There's also a copper still nearby for refreshment to calm the nerves before your musical debut. I have purposely witnessed these events and can attest to the story's veracity. I never want to call anybody who has the perspicacity to follow and read and watch my videos a teller of untruths. Never want to do that. However, I'm pretty confident that there's nowhere on the planet Earth. Number one, it'd have to be really warm to go skinny dipping at my age because I have trouble with cold as it is. And I don't think there's any magic water anywhere that can make me able to carry a tune without a bucket to put it in. But hey, there it is. April Fools or not. Okay. So this one got a couple of responses. Any Clampets down Bug Tussle Way? I know some of them moved to Beverly Hills after a spill. To which the original poster said there are no Clampets in Monroe County. Because that was a town they kept mentioning on the Hillbillies, but it really exists. Okay. So the larceny panic started it all the outrage. I think the satanic panic would eventually turned up, but it is a neat tidbit of gaming history. Yeah, we were before they even figured out that before they realized that we were coercing children to do satanic rituals. They thought we were telling them it was okay to steal. And there was some moral outrage about um, not making stealing a bad thing, and yeah, it was the first little piece of snow that started rolling down the hill. Um, okay, when a creature increases to giant size, what happens to their possessions? Does it depend on the method used for enlargement? If items turn giant size, then do magical armor, weapons, and other magic items also become larger? Do they perhaps get a save? Does damage increase due to size? Do the same rules apply for creature sinks? All right, now I'm going to use the word creature to be any living thing in a game because absolutely, if a player uh, is wearing his armor and his gear and everything, and he drinks a potion that makes him dramatically increase inside, um, it's going to ruin his armor. In my original in the first campaign down in Carbondale, had a player whom we call Crazy Neil. Very enthusiastic player. And I gave him, early on, because I didn't know any better, I gave him a ring of polymorph self. And at the time, I don't know if we played it wrong or whatever, but he polymorphed himself into a golden dragon. He did this a couple of times. The first time he did it, he was in an area large enough to do it, and he had fun trashing the bad guys. Second time he did it, he had now acquired some armor, and he drank the thing without taking anything off, and so he broke all the fasteners and whatever, and he destroyed his armor. I didn't think to give it a saving throw. It just did it. And think of how many comics you've seen where the swelling chest bursts the shirt. Now, the third time Crazy Neil did this, he ducked into a 10 by 10 room to take off his armor and polymorphed, and became the first known case of player spam, dragon spam, because he completely filled up that 10-5 foot. The volume was just and squoosh, and everything was ruined. Neil was ruined, and that taught the party that they got to think about things like volume. So no, I wouldn't. If to be honest, I'm having trouble thinking what's going to go giant that isn't already, pretty heavily magical to begin with. So I would imagine that if Thor, which I'm not sure that he's ever done this, and certainly not in the Norse pantheon, decided to increase to 20 feet tall, I would imagine he'd be able to dispel his hammer. I can never pronounce Mjolnir. He can dispel his hammer to look like it's gotten just as big, or else he'd look like he had a little tack hammer, and that would probably ruin the effect on whoever he was trying to intimidate. I just I can't. If I would think that if it's an opposing wizard, they're smart enough to know not to do that, because you don't run into too many 6-level magic users that are trying to kill you. They're usually higher level and evil and sinister and with an agenda, whatever. So I would say that if you shrink, if you're holding whatever, it shrinks with you. But only you would shrink, or the weapon you might be holding, you would shrink inside your armor, whether your armor is brigandine plates on a leather jack or plate. But that's my world. That's the way my mechanics work. You can do it literally any way you want. You can play any kind of physics that you choose to, and you can really make a good case either way. Either way, you could do that. It could be a size changing weapon. There's a hell of a magic item. It gets, bigger or littler. Why not? All right, what's next? If you want to give the magic items or the armor or whatever a save, fine. A save could indicate that they had at least started to get it off before the changeover took them. I used absolutely, if somebody's afflicted with lycanthropy and they go through the change and they become like, really larger or whatever, absolutely, they ruin whatever they were wearing, unless they knew they were going to change or they purposely changed. If it came over them Like in the early stages of lycanthropy, you can't control it. You could, get hit and it can trigger it. And, again, there are circumstances where that would happen. And if you became a really big buff werewolf, yeah, you'd ruin everything. Um, Use your imagination and think of what it looked like in a movie. Okay, I may be wrong, but I don't think murder hobos originated with Joe Manganiello's group, as the term has been around the net for close to 15 years. I also was not aware of the term in relation to Mr. Manganiello's gaming buddies. Good bit of trivia, though. And another response, yeah, it's been around a long time. To which I replied, but they trademarked it. And you mean an actual TM trademark or a figure of speech? Well, I think I mean a real trademark because here's their back patch, and way down at the bottom, in that little diamond, it says established 1981. Now, I know that Joe has probably been playing that long, as have a few of the guys in his group. I've met a couple of them. I'm not chummy with them or whatever, but I met them and they've obviously been playing a long time. So I don't know if it's if it's a TM mark or whatever, but they seem to have claimed it a long time ago. This is the patch that they sell on the Death Saves website. Or no, they don't sell this. This is only for the members of the club, and they gave me one when I was out there visiting and made me an honorary murder hobo. So anyway, I don't know. I don't care. Um, Appreciate the answer in regard to collaborative storytelling, and I completely get how that frustration builds up when the people say ridiculous things about masks. Well, I've vetted on that, so it's all good. To expand on the storytelling question, there are many who will fudge monster hit points, employ illusionism, stuff like that to give the players maximum drama or fun. What are your thoughts on this? Not to poison the well, but I feel that my victory is shallow if the DM is pulling punches. All right, now there's a couple here that go on, and I'm going to read them before I start answering. In response, maybe the real skill in DMing is to play it so cool the players can't tell if it's a fudge and what is arbitrary. And they go on to say that's not hard at all. You have to learn to be deceitful to run social encounters anyway. I'd contest if you're going to fudge things, you should tell the players if that's part of your style because you want it to be fun or whatever. Most DMs don't tell their players this because they know their players might be upset or that they themselves would be upset. This is because if the world is fluid and changed at a whim by the DM, it doesn't matter nearly as much how creative your solutions are as a player or how well you plan something. This is why procedures are important. Procedures keep the DM impartial so that players know their wins and losses were earned. Okay, going on. See what you're saying. This maybe sits in with the comments about rolling in the open for certain events. One commenter said that they roll fights and battles in the open, but rolls for other things behind the screen. I guess it's a matter of players and DMs finding a balance. And another, intent is important. I roll search checks for the players behind the screen because they should know whether or not they've succeeded. Almost everything else out in the open. Even hit dice for baddies. I roll openly if it's the first hit. After the first hit, if it's possible they're dead. Okay. A lot of things there, but they all kind of tie together. I think that the comment that the real skill is playing it so cool that players can't tell it's a fudge. I also agree with the fact that at the very, very beginning, you can say that you can elucidate on what your process or what your philosophy is going to be. I don't, in any way, shape, or form, advocate frequent fudging. No. But just as I have a rule in my Wheel of Blame game that no, they don't get to make puns, only I do, and that's only to get a laugh, and that there's no metagaming, except I do if it's going to get a laugh. Um, they my game plays entirely on trust because I can't. We're playing virtually. I can't see their die rolls. They can't see mine. So what I do is, if you wanna be open about it, make the players roll their own damage. What happened to them, not what they inflicted. Bill, you got hit. Roll a d8. See how bad. Then they're rolling it on themselves. They got nobody's dice to blame but their own. Now, I can decide behind the screen whether or not he got hit. I can fudge either way. Fudges go both ways. You've been a little cocky, not, being disruptive, fine. You just got attacked. Your contrariness has attracted a monster. Don't have to kill him with it or anything like that. But fudging goes both ways. I don't know any DMs that would fudge against the players except in rare, extraordinary circumstances. I've heard of them. I've heard of accusations, killer DMs, etc. And roll out in the open whatever you want to roll, whatever your group's comfortable with. I don't roll. I roll behind the screen for, was a trap search successful, things like that. I don't want the players to immediately know what's going on. There's got to be some, hey, what's this? Otherwise, what's the fun? Otherwise, you're just walking from room to room in the museum smashing stuff. Fudging and dice rolling is whatever the group is comfortable with. I'll give you a real old timer story. When I bought the game and a set of dice and took it to Carbondale, they were the only dice. Nobody else had polyhedrons. At first, nobody was sure whether or not they were going to buy them, so I had the only dice. Everybody was scavenging six-siders in the beginning because everything was based on D6. But then when we went to the Greyhawk thing with the rest of the dice, I was rolling everything. And to counter that, I made a dice box out of a wooden cigar box with balsa baffles, put it in the center of the table, set the dice next to it, and now everybody rolled their own. I rolled behind the screen, but everything else was out here. I don't know, even thought about doing it. I've never done anything bad to the group. I have fudged on rare occasions for humor, for, oh Jesus, that shouldn't have, giving the group some slack when they've already had a couple of really horrendous breaks, and we're actually here to have fun. And a campaign's one thing. I don't campaign. I run tournament games, convention games, so my point of view is different. And I've agreed that the real skill in DMing is you'll never have an idea when I fudged. Then we got, I got a rather nasty comment. Let us know how your transition to becoming a woman goes, Tim. Which drew the response, if you're not enjoying the channel, you don't have to watch, which would have been my first response. Then so another response, ouch, whoa. So what are you trying to say? He used a name I don't. The Voluntary Magic, Andrew Fauci and Rachel Levine. Oh, the Voluntary Magic, Andrew Fauci and Rachel Levine jab virtue signaling is going to do that to old Tim? Or did you notice the right earlobe earring thing? Or are you saying he's been in the closet all along? Yeah, that's it. I understand that there was a time when which ear you had pierced indicated your preferences. And when I finally decided to do mine, I didn't give a damn what it was back then. I decided that's the ear I wanted to do. So, whatever. Okay, we did that page. We did that page. Wow. I really talk fast tonight, I guess. Fudging. I don't know why everybody gets their shorts in a bunch. And I have a little trouble dancing around getting so involved in a character that you feel cheated. If I was really in a life or death situation, facing down somebody who's going to do great bodily harm, and somebody else comes up from behind and takes them out, I don't feel cheated. Call me silly. I just don't. Let's see. Well, I'll be running some games for North Texas RPG Convention. And that's it until the fall. Was going to do Autumn Revel in Lake Geneva, but with Gen Con moving back to September, that killed Autumn Revel. So I guess I'm looking forward, if I'm invited, I'm looking forward to my next physical appearance at a convention at Gamehole. So I hope to see a bunch of you there. Without trying to be political, please remain safe until you don't need to take as many precautions after you've had that second shot or your Johnsons & Johnsons and you've passed your time. Please remain safe. Be kind to your neighbors by wearing a mask, because just because you can't catch it doesn't mean you might not have it on you or in you because somebody exposed you to it. And I don't care what anybody says, this isn't over yet. We need to stay the course. Wow, this is a pretty short one tonight, isn't it? Gee, is there anything else to talk about? No, guess not. New time sync, Civilization 6. Whew, what a time sucker that one is. Well, I guess that's it. I know this has probably been pretty boring, but when you have so many comments on the same topics, you can wrap them all up in one response pretty much. So until the next time, Dodada Gopi. Oh, hello. I'm still figuring out when this thing starts. Welcome to my cellar.
He's the curmudgeon who wrote about the dungeons. Now he's the feller, live from the cellar. Talks about D&D and old school RPGs. Still quite a feller, the curmudgeon in the cellar. Last man around when the rates went down. Called it Gary in that Lake Geneva town. Hey Gary, it's an awful mess. Let me edit, we'll have success. D&D and Dragon Magazine. He's the curmudgeon who wrote about the dungeons. Now he's the feller, live from the cellar. Talks about D&D and old school RPGs, but still quite the feller, the curmudgeon in the cellar. Magic missile, it's a mortar shell. Make it hit in the first level spell brought psionics to the game to attack that wizard grave. ESR and fantasy, collection of micro armory, Titan with tramp under a tree, high as could be. He's the curmudgeon who wrote about the dungeons. Now he's the feller, live from the cellar. Talks about D&D and old school RPGs, but he's still quite the feller, the curmudgeon in the cellar. Still quite the feller, the curmudgeon in the cellar. Curmudgeon.